The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports. You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast.
Listen, I know I said that I didn't think Chris Paul made sense after Bradley Beal, but I think the nostalgia is too much to care about, and I'm also going to be talking about why I've changed my stance on that based on something that Lawrence Frank said, and then looking at the depth of our incredible 11-man rotation that we have assembled now for this upcoming season. We might be the deepest team in the league. But let's start out with the obvious. Chris Paul is a Clipper once more. As someone who became a fan before Chris Paul, and I would say my fondest memories as a Clipper fan are easily Lob City. This is an amazing day. For me as a Clipper fan, for me as the host of this show, because it's been a really crazy journey being a Clipper fan. It's not for the weak. This is going to be my 21st season as a fan. I know people have been a fan longer than me, and listeners of this show have been a fan longer than me. And whenever I meet people like that, I say the same thing every time, that you deserve a ring more than me. But I feel like I shouldn't even start with the basketball stuff, because yes, there's a lot of worries. Are we too small? Are we too old? You know, the fact of the matter is Chris Paul is still a good player in today's NBA. Let's just make that very clear. Chris Paul, yes, he's going into year 21. Yes, he is going to be, he's already 40 years old. But this past season, and I know this is crazy to think, Clipper Nation, this past season he literally played 82 games. And the only other season that he played 82 games was 10 years ago, that famous 2014-15 season, which I believe was the second best Clipper team of all time after you could argue 2019-20, but I think the second best Clipper team of all time in terms of success was 2014-15, beating that San Antonio team and, of course, blowing that 3-1 lead to the Houston Rockets. Chris Paul played every single game of that season. He played every single game last year. He averaged 9 points, 7 assists on 43, 38, 92 splits. So, yes, you know, his field goal percentage isn't that great, but 38% from three, 92% from the foul line, and played 82 games. You know what Chris Paul's coming in to do. To be a guy that can run the offense with James Harden out, giving us another pick-and-roll god. And I've mentioned several times on this show that we've had the privilege of having two of the best pick-and-roll players in NBA history on the Mount Rushmore, in my opinion, of pick-and-rolls on this LA Clippers franchise in James Harden and Chris Paul. That's part of why they were so successful together, is because when one was out or when one wasn't handling the ball, the other one was. So it's a steady diet of a very stagnant offense, I will say, very ball-pound heavy, but that will get you good shots as the end result of your possessions. And that's what you get with Chris Paul. So when James Harden comes out of the game, we now have the perfect replacement to run the offense, because we looked like we were devoid of a solid pick-and-roll ball handler. Kawhi Leonard running the offense. It's crazy because I've been, people say I'm a Kawhi hater and I'm very critical of him and stuff like that. First of all, I don't hate him. Secondly, I have been public in saying I have not enjoyed his tenure with the Clippers. I am very public in saying that, largely because of the injuries, not because I don't like watching him play basketball. I mean, I think he's an awesome basketball player. I always say that. But yes, I don't think his tenure as a Clipper has been very enjoyable, especially with the expectations. Now, people are going to say that are not fans for a long time, they made it out of the made it out of the second round, and Lob City never did that, but you praised Lob City so much. Yes, because look where we were before Lob City. This stadium that's behind me, if you're watching on YouTube, the Intuit Dome, it wouldn't have been built, in my opinion, without the vision that the Clippers could be a successful product in LA. And that came from 6 consecutive years of winning seasons and playoff appearances. We had never even had 3 consecutive playoff seasons before in all the time we were in LA until Chris Paul came. So he changed everything. He made it so that people were talking about the Clippers as a team that you don't want to face, that you come to town, and if you mess around, you're getting 30-pieced. That's what it was. And that's because of Chris. I love Blake Griffin. And Blake Griffin is maybe the catalyst of it all. But we would have never had this arena, to me, without both of them. And Chris Paul added the most. When we look at who's better all time, Chris Paul or Blake Griffin, It's an obvious answer. Chris Paul was the reason why we became a winning franchise or a winning team. He changed the culture. I think the winning franchise is Ballmer, but winning team, CP3. And he gave the vision of, the Clippers could be a successful team. Like they could be a perennial playoff team. So we know what Chris Paul's here for, to back up James Harden, to not make Kawhi Leonard have to create when James Harden's out. He can still get in his spots. He can still feed off other guys, maybe run occasional pick and rolls. But I was saying that the reason why I brought up the whole do I hate Kawhi thing or whatever is because people say I'm harsh on him. I hold him to a high standard. But I was shocked to see that most Clipper fans were like, we need another ball handler. Beal and Bogey is not good enough, and Chris Dunn off the bench that would not be good enough. And even if we stagger Kawhi, I don't trust Kawhi to create enough good shots. I'm like, damn. So that's how you feel about Kawhi? That he can't create good shots? Like that, and they're like, nah. So maybe this is, exactly what some Clipper fans that aren't as high on Kawhi creating a bunch of good shots are, or maybe they're more hyped on it because of that. But the fact of the matter is, this is why we brought in Chris Paul, is to have another guy that can create shots. Yes, the problem is 11 deep, and I'll be talking about that coming up of why that's, a potential issue, why I was saying I don't want Chris Paul after we got Beal because of the 11 deep thing, but it's going to take major sacrifice. It's going to take major buy-in from the players. It's going to take Ty Lue to have a really good season because we legitimately have 11 good NBA players. 11 players that all deserve to be playing. And look, Kawhi's going to miss games, so then there you go. Beal's going to miss games, and then there you go. So it's not going to be as big of a problem in the regular season. But when everyone's healthy, how can we keep everybody maximizing their roles and also staying content with what's going to happen? So that's going to be major. 11 good players. But let me just start by saying, or end the segment by saying this. For me, the good news, the smile on my face didn't really come from what Chris Paul is going to bring to the basketball court. It's the storyline, the narrative. And I know it's, we want to be anti-narrative and all about basketball these days, but no, like the narrative of professional sports is part of what makes things great. I don't think we'd follow it if it was just great basketball players. We love the narrative, the history, the things that are attached to each player, the legacies. We love that. That's what makes the NBA great. That's what makes it like a storyline. And in this story, Chris Paul spent 6 years with the Hornets, 6 years right here with our Clippers, 2 years with the Houston Rockets, 1 year with the Oklahoma City Thunder, 3 years with the Phoenix Suns, and then 1 year with the Golden State Warriors and 1 year with the San Antonio Spurs. Of those 7 stops, it will now be the Clippers, which I already felt when people remember Chris Paul, are they going to say I remember Hornets Chris Paul or Clippers Chris Paul? And you can argue singular season that 08 Chris Paul was the best version. But when you talk about the fact that Chris Paul had a season in 2010 where he had knee surgery and missed half the season and didn't play in the playoffs because they didn't make it because of that. And in his first 2 years, he was a rookie and a sophomore. You cannot look at me with a straight face and say that Chris Paul had a better tenure with the Hornets than he did with the Clippers. When it's all said and done, it's going to be CP3 of the Lob City Clips that will be remembered more than any version. And now he's got the most total years with our franchise to stamp that. He's one of the greatest point guards of all time. Played for the Clippers for the majority of his career, had his best years with the Clippers, was his most popular self with the Clippers, in the most commercials with the Clippers, had the most All-NBA honors with the Clippers, most All-Star appearances, made it to the playoffs the most, had the most nationally televised games. We did a lot for Chris Paul, and he did a lot for us. So it's only fitting that he comes back for one last dance right here in the stadium that he helped build. Now for a little more personal touch, for those that follow me thoroughly, they know that I've been straddling with the line of I am a fan, but this media stuff and me not being fond of the 2-1-3 era, and then my least favorite player to watch before he was a Clipper, and to be honest, that hasn't changed. Even though he's a great Clipper. I'm going to say that again. He's a great Clipper, James Harden. He's developing a nice little Clipper legacy right here. But I still don't enjoy watching him play basketball philosophically. And by the way, those that say, bro, that's so hypocritical, Chris Paul does a lot of that same stuff. Yes, I agree with you now. When I was younger, I didn't see it like that. When we had Chris Paul. But I see it now. I was just rewatching Game 7 of the Jazz series, the last game Chris Paul played for us. Oh, man, that dude was a ball pounder, slow, the way he ran the offense. So good at making plays, but slow. So we're not going to be the most fun team to watch in the half court, in my opinion. But we have a lot of, unless you love that style of play, but we have a lot of weapons. And all I'm saying is this. Like, as I was saying, everybody knows I've been straddling that line of, it feels more like work now, and I get more enjoyment out of like the platform I've built and talking to you, the listeners, than the actual success of the team. I don't get nervous anymore. It doesn't. It'll help. It'll make me feel better that day when we win, but I wake up the next day and I don't even care. And then when we lose, it's not a big deal to me anymore. But I miss feeling like a fan, and I miss feeling that nervousness. And maybe that's just part of aging. Maybe that's because the media job has gotten me feeling that way. I know a lot of people in media that have struggled to feel like a fan still. But I'm in the swell. I'm in the wall every single game making noise. But I think it's partially because I wasn't a huge fan of the guys that are the faces of our franchise. But now Chris Paul is back. And like, I'm not invested in Kawhi's individual legacy or like Harden's individual legacy. Like, I couldn't care less. It's all about the Clippers for me. And that's how it was with Chris Paul when he was on the team too. Like, I didn't care about, oh, he can win a chip so I can say he's better than Isaiah Thomas or John Stockton. Like, I didn't care about that. And I still don't. But it would just be amazing, like a fitting ending for Chris Paul to win a ring with us. Do I think it's going to happen? No. I think we're still too old. But did we get better? Yes. And I think it's just such a feel-good story. And I think I'll definitely be able to be, I don't know if I'll get those nerves. I'll update you, all of you. Will I be able to get nervous again? Will I be able to really feel that same feeling I did when I was younger? But I'll tell you what, it definitely makes me like the team more. Sorry, Ivica Zubac, you're no longer my favorite player on the team because Chris is back. The greatest Clipper of all time, either him or Blake Griffin, is back.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. And if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
The Dallas Cowboys held their annual training camp press conference, and it was something.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And let's talk about Micah Parsons, because that was obviously the biggest story from the training camp press conference.
Yeah.
Here's the updates. Jerry and Stephen Jones have not talked to the agent yet. They both feel confident that a deal is going to eventually get done. They talked about how they're really excited that Micah's here, showing the leadership. And then things got a little wonky when it started to talking about missing games and other stuff.
Yeah, let's take a step. I mean, we don't need to take a step back. We can stand from right here. I think this is a great example of what we talked about in the last segment, right? Where Jerry has created this situation where everyone is misinterpreting, like almost to the point where it's intentional, misinterpreting what he's saying to kind of blow things out of proportion, because he the way he presents things, the way he phrases things. I think that this whole thing blew up because of a perceived criticism of Micah and Dak, is what, because he got mentioned in that same paragraph of them signing these contracts or just missing time in general, and that's why Jerry is wary of signing long-term deals. I don't think that that's what Jerry was trying to say, and I think that this is another great example of Jerry overcomplicating his message and not kind of delivering what's very simple. I think the 10,000-foot view of what Jerry was trying to get across was that he's happy about the way Micah is handling his contract situation and the way that he's handling Micah's contract situation, because he's getting the best of both worlds. And that if you look at the Trayvon situation where they signed the deal early, you've got a situation where, a guy is not doing everything that you would want him to do. I think if anything, he was trying to compare Micah to Trayvon and how, look, Micah's doing all the things that you want to be doing, that you should be doing. He's showing up to practice, he's being a leader, but Jerry fumbled it all so much that he ends up, sounding to criticism. And ultimately, let's break that criticism down. Jerry actually was chiming in on a question to Schottenheimer about contingencies for what happens if, Micah doesn't practice very much during a hold-in. I kind of think that Jerry was speaking in a global terms, like hey, sometimes these guys aren't here. We have to like let them practice. And because it was kind of in the same time zone as general Micah Parsons contract talk, everyone assumed that it was, oh, Jerry feels like he's not getting his money from Dak because he got hurt, or he doesn't want to sign Micah because he got hurt. Which
Micah or
really,
Michael Parsons, because he did say Michael Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, literally, yeah, that was the funny thing, right? Is that he literally used his full name, right? Michael Parsons, like, and like a sentence later, praising him, saying Michael Parsons is the most, well thought financial player that he's ever had to sit across the table from, or I'm paraphrasing, but something like that. It was effusive praise. So it wasn't, the headline that came out was shots fired by Jerry Jones, but it really, again, no sympathy for Jerry because he set himself up for this. But again, this is what happens. It's hard to get to the truth of what's being said because everyone's, not reading the context of when Jerry is saying what he's saying. And Jerry's already very difficult to understand.
So I'm really glad that you added that context because I mean, for the listeners, right now, you understand at least what we think Jerry was trying to say. However, sometimes the context doesn't matter because this is what happened. JJ Watt quoted a video of Jerry making that statement, and he said, anytime that you can publicly take a dig at your star quarterback and your star pass rusher simultaneously right before the season begins, you've got to take it. Nothing makes guys want to fight for you more than hearing how upset you are that they got hurt while fighting for you. And of course, that tweet goes viral because Micah Parsons retweets it. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what Jerry's trying to say because Micah obviously agrees with what JJ is saying. And again, this is why it's all so draining.
Yeah. Now we're talking about social media. Now we're not talking about football anymore. It's like, it's, and again, I can see in some ways that it's like it perceived as like, oh, more clicks, more likes, more views and all that stuff. But at the same time, like it's exhausting. It's truly exhausting for a lot of folks. So I do think that Jerry is to blame for a lot of what he said. But I don't think it's for the way that a lot of people are interpreting he should be blamed. I think it's the general environment that he's created that has caused situations like this to continually happen over and over.
And what I said on Twitter as soon as it happens, like I have no doubt that Mike is going to get a big deal before week 1. He's going to be the highest paid defensive player in the league. But it's just all this song and dance that we're going to go through again. And now we're going to be talking tomorrow about like, hey, is Micah going to hold in? Is he not going to practice? What's that going to look like? And is Micah mad? And I just don't understand it. It's so frustrating.
Yeah. And hopefully as the weeks come on, we're going to get more football and this will kind of fade into the background, but it's just going to be a part until it's not. It's just going to be a part of this conversation until it's done. And that's just, more frustrating than it is like anything else.
We should just really quickly touch on, they talked about wanting to do some of these deals later versus earlier and in their strategy. It seems like they've just kind of the conclusion, like, hey, we would rather see an extra year of these guys perform before we give them a big deal. And yeah, it's going to cost us more in the end, but Jerry brought up Terrence Steele and Trayvon Diggs and basically saying, hey, we kind of wish we didn't do those deals ahead of time. I wonder if this is just going to be the philosophy going forward.
Until it isn't, and look, I don't know if, I was talking to you, like, I don't know if the time, it feels like the switch in this also coincides with the timing of them getting the analytics department, even though that seems totally backwards, because I can't imagine an analytical, and maybe there is, and maybe I'm wrong, but I can't imagine analytical argument to why this would be a positive way to handle things. I think this is just a comfort thing. And then ultimately they feel like the difference in what they pay at the end of the day is worth it to them. It is a drop in the bucket because, as we all keep hearing over and over again, the salary cap isn't real. You can just roll this money over. So why not use that to give a little bit longer look-see on the contract that you have up front and not have to pay that cash until later? I don't think this is a good strategy, but I mean, I'm arguing that I guess it is a strategy as opposed to, just like pure incompetence. I think it's probably the lesser ideal of the two strategies. It's not going to save you a lot of money, and maybe that hurts you in the long run, but if you could figure out, financially ways to make things happen, maybe it ends up, ending up all the same in the wash.
Texas put the icing on the cake of an incredible recruiting week last night.
You are Locked On Longhorns, your daily podcast on the Texas Longhorns. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What a week for Steve Sarkisian and company on the recruiting trail. The Horns put a bow on their best week of the 2026 cycle by landing a commitment from 5-star athlete / running back Derek Cooper from the state of Florida. He announced his commitment last night, and that made it 3 5-star commits for the Longhorns since last Tuesday. This is like a baseball player coming out of a slump with a 3-home-run game, or a pitcher coming out of a funk by throwing a no-hitter. That's the type of 180 that we're talking about with Texas recruiting since last Monday. To put things into perspective, a week ago today, the Longhorns class ranked 13th in the country and 6th in the SEC. Right now, the class ranks 5th in the country. Actually, Rivals has it even higher at number 4, but the composite ranking is number 5, so we'll play by the rules here. 5th overall and now 3rd in the SEC. With just 3 commits in the span of 6 days, the Horns class moved up 8 to 9 spots, and Texas looks to be in prime position to close out another top 5 class. Long way to go, obviously, but things look and feel a hell of a lot different right now, don't they? And I sensed some panic around Longhorn Nation after some of the recent happenings in recruiting. And look, it wasn't fun. The end of June, the beginning of July, Texas was in a rut. I think it was like a 2 for 15 drought that Texas was in. And it just felt like every top target who was committing somewhere else. And not everybody freaked out, so I don't want to accuse everybody or anybody watching or listening to this show, because y'all know better than to worry about the recruiting class 4 to 5 months away from signing day. But hey, there was some general nervousness with a portion of Longhorn Nation about the way things were trending. A lot of folks were asking questions about what this recruiting class was going to look like. And, has Steve Sarkisian lost his fastball? And has Texas run out of money? And this, that, and the other. I can't imagine any of those questions and any of that fear exists right now. Steve Sarkisian has proven again that he knows what he's doing. And there's a reason he's brought in 4 straight top 5 recruiting classes. And there's a reason he just landed the top-ranked class in the country last year. He and his staff, it's not just Sark, it's the entire coaching staff, it's the entire recruiting staff. They deserve all the credit in the world for this as well. They've got this thing figured out. And they know that you don't sign a top 5 class in April or May or June. You sign it in December. We're not even to August yet. So if this thing isn't done, obviously Texas has to keep its current guys committed, but there's still plenty of guys that are still available, both uncommitted and due to our committed somewhere else, that Texas could end up landing. A little more on Derek Cooper before we get back into the big picture recruiting conversation. Cooper is listed as an athlete on most recruiting sites, but he's expected to play running back when he gets to college. That's the expectation for him here in Austin. He is the 2nd-ranked athlete in the class, also the 2nd-ranked player in the state of Florida this year, behind only Texas commit Dia Bell. And he is a top 30 player overall in the class of 2026. Remember, Derek Cooper visited 5 schools this summer. Texas wasn't one of them. Usually when you don't get a visit the summer before senior year, you don't get a commitment. But we touched on it last Thursday. Cooper was originally supposed to commit on July 12th. He pushed it back 8 days, and that kind of told us that there was another school making a late charge. Turns out that other school was Texas. Even before the delay was announced, Derek Cooper was spotted at like a local football camp in the Hollywood, Florida area where he's from, wearing a bunch of Texas gear. And I said it last week, that doesn't always mean something. Guys get free gear. The gear is awesome. They're going to wear it. I would do the same if a bunch of colleges were sending me free cool stuff. Hey, Texas, if you want to send me some cool stuff, I'll happily wear it. But the fact that he was wearing it despite visiting 5 other schools in June and then seemingly not having Texas as a finalist like days before announcing his decision, that felt a little different. And obviously, as last week progressed, Texas started trending and trending more. It was a huge win for Texas. Another win over Georgia, A win over Miami, Florida State, and Ohio State. Those were the teams that were most linked to Derek Cooper over the past few months. He visited all of those schools in June. Did not visit Texas, but Texas ends up getting the pledge. It's a huge get. It is a huge get. And there are some similarities between the Derek Cooper recruitment and the Tyler Atkinson one. Of course, Atkinson was one of the 3 5-stars that Texas brought in last week, the number 1 linebacker in the country. We touched on this. Texas went hard after 3 linebackers in this class. They couldn't get Xavier Griffin. They couldn't get Braden Rouse, so they went all in on Tyler Atkinson, and boom, it worked. They poached him out of the state of Georgia. At running back, Texas couldn't get KJ Edwards. They couldn't get Xavier Crowell. Those are the other 2 top-flight tailbacks that Texas was going after. They both committed elsewhere. Cooper kind of felt like the last of the big 3. So once again, Steve Sarkisian and company felt like they needed to pull out all of the stops and do whatever it took to get this to happen. It's a big win for Chad Scott, his first big win on the recruiting front as the new running backs coach at Texas. And man, the Longhorns just continue to crush it with running back recruiting. They bring in seemingly 2 every year. I think they've done that every year that Sark has been the head coach. And to start the 26 cycle with a 5-star, one of the top just overall players in the nation, that's a damn good way to get things going. We'll see what they do with that other spot. As of right now, Texas has 0 offers out to any non-committed running back. So they might wait and do a senior eval and let this thing play out a little closer to December. But again, what a way to start the running back class this year. And it's another out-of-state tailback joining the team. You know, Bijan Robinson, CJ Baxter, Christian Clark, Jarrett Gibson, James Simon, all of those guys who've been running backs here within the last 5 years, they all came from out of state. And there's a lot of Florida love in there too, with CJ Baxter and Jarrett Gibson, both of those guys coming from Florida. Now you get another one with Derek Cooper. Texas has recruited running back very well everywhere. They've had a bunch of success in the Sunshine State. Derek Cooper, 6'1", about 205, 210. He's a track star in high school as well, state qualifier in the 100 and 200 meter dashes, also in the long jump as well. State qualifier in Florida, not too shabby. The high school numbers from his junior season, about 124 carries for 905 yards. That's 9.3 yards a carry. Had 13 touchdowns, had a receiving touchdown, and, oh yeah, recruited as an athlete because, well, he plays both ways. 46 tackles, 10 TFLs, 4 sacks, 3 fumble recoveries, 2 forced fumbles. He also blocked a pair of punts on special teams. So this guy has done a little bit of everything. He could be a linebacker at the next level. I don't think Texas wants him to play linebacker, but he is that type of athlete, that type of talent. And you never say no to 5-star athletes, right? This is a big-time get for Texas football. And you think about the future of the running back room. Everybody who's here in 2025 could return in 2026. CJ Baxter will have another year of eligibility. Quintravion Wisner will have another year of eligibility. And then you look at the younger guys with Jarrett Gibson and Christian Clark and James Simon and Ricky Stewart. They have to come back. Texas could get all 6 of those guys back, plus Derek Cooper and potentially another signee this year. This gives you a little bit more long-term stability, just in case Trey Wisner has another great season and goes pro. CJ Baxter, just in case he bounces back from his ACL injury, puts together a tremendous season and decides to go pro. The Longhorns setting themselves up, obviously, for short-term success, but long-term success as well. They are making sure that that running back room is in a good, healthy spot for years to come. Love the pickup. And a quick bit of a scouting report on Derek Cooper. Quote, a jack of all trades that some schools view as a running back, while others think his ceiling might be higher as a back 7 defender. As a ball carrier, he runs with plenty of tempo and energy as he hits the hole with urgency. Always seems to be spiraling forward with the 6'1", 205 frame, and he will use his core power to bounce off tacklers in tight quarters. Also effective on swing screen passes and has the hands to emerge as more than just a check down option for a passing attack, end quote. So a running back threat, also a receiving threat out of the backfield. Music to my ears. A great get. And the cherry on top of a tremendous week of recruiting for our Texas Longhorns. What a difference a week makes. A total 180. Now, things are looking up for the Horns. Currently a top 5 class, and Sark and company still have work to do. 3 little birds. Said it before. I'll continue to say it. Awesome, awesome stuff for the future of Longhorn football.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Maybe the Cincinnati Bengals do. With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
It's all happening not just for the Chiefs, but for one in particular. George Karlaftis gets it done.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Waiting for deals to happen sometimes requires deadlines. And this is part of it. And while we're going to clarify specifics here, the George Karlaftis deal is a big part of this, what the pass rush looks like. How is it going to change in the future? That's coming up later in the show. What the pass rush itself looks like for 2025 as we are on the cusp of seeing guys on the field at training camp. And we start with George Karlaftis, the deal itself, value, etc. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, as well as my outlets, RGR Football and NFL 33, where you can get a lot more information as well. My partner, Chris Clark, over at KC Chiefs Corner. You can find his work there. Here we are, and we know in the draft class where you have 2 number 1 picks, somebody had to go first. I think this makes a lot of sense that the George Karlaftis deal gets done ahead of time because I think it's a little bit more straightforward. I don't think you see as high a highs, and I don't think he is as elite a pass rusher as Trent McDuffie is a cornerback. So I'm relieved, honestly, that they got it out of the way because it feels like George is quicker. He looks like he's in better shape, and he might have an epic year for the Kansas City Chiefs this season. They might have just saved themselves some money.
4 years, $93 million with $62 million guaranteed, and you're going to say that they saved some money.
Could be more next year, you know what I mean?
No, I get it. I said it that way on purpose. I love this deal. I love the structure. To be clear, it's not really just a $93 million contract. It's like a $115 million contract because it includes his 2 years that he still had left on his current contract. So it's an extension that ties him through 2030, I believe, with the Chiefs. So this is a great deal for Kansas City. It's a good deal for George, too. He gets the signing bonus, which can be prorated out up to 5 years. So that will not be prorated out on the last year. So this is going to have a little bit of a cap impact for 2025. I haven't found that information out there yet. But essentially, this comes down to a 6-year deal for like $115 million, and I will take that for George Karlaftis. I think that's like $17 million a year is I think what I saw being talked about for this one. And when you look at it from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense for Kansas City. He's not a top-tier pass rusher. He's not going to be a guy like Myles Garrett, and I'm okay with that. But they paid him like he is a top probably 20 and maybe even top 15 pass rusher. And the reality of this contract is that by the time he actually starts to see the new money and the new contract, he'll be vastly underpaid.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the reality of NFL contracts.
Very, very true. And the 93, even the 93 over 4, which is just the new money, which is normally what I refer to instead of lumping it together with the 2 years that we already know what the costs are. Just in terms of the new money, that's going to get caught up to rather quickly as well. So when you take a step back and you look at him as a pass rusher in his time in the league, the only guy from his class that can even hold a candle and is better than him in terms of some statistical production, but had an injury, is Aiden Hutchinson, the guy that was top of the top of that draft class. George has outplayed my expectation for him. And I don't think he's done yet because while he's made improvements, I still see more to his game that can come. We'll talk about where that goes initially. But I think this contract pays him for what he is about to do this season and the season after that, and maybe even through 27.
Okay, so if I'm looking at the deals as they are right now, as far as we know, I think this takes into account just about everything. He is getting paid, if you just look at the 4 years over 93, he's getting paid about $23.5 million a year. That would put him in the top 10 when it comes to pass rushers. But if you really look at the contract, like I said, it's more like 17.25, which puts him about in the 15 to 16 to 18 range, somewhere in there, which to me is perfect for what you want to be paying George. I agree with you. I think he could be getting better as this contract goes on. This also does something else for him. He's 24 years old. He now has the ability to have a third contract at a pretty good rate because he's going to be getting out of this one at 29, close to 30. So I do think that this is a fantastic deal for Kansas City. I'm glad it got done, and I think it makes a lot of sense. When you start looking at what they're going to have to pay Trent McDuffie, that's going to be a lot more money. And now that you have this deal done, you know what he's on the books for the next 6 years. You can now figure out, what can I give Trent McDuffie? What can I get? How can I get this deal done? And if you do that, then you have both these guys locked up for the long term. And McDuffie's deal, if he gets one, is going to be similar to Karlaftis's, where it's just going to be an extension added on to the 2 years that he's got left right now.
Agreed. And they could be working on that right now for all we know. And if they are, more power to them. Because much like George Karlaftis, I think Trent McDuffie will have continued acceleration and more value after this season.
Yeah, the other thing that really sticks out to me on this is the corner group has kind of been set. The market's been set by, look at the guys that have been paid. Sauce Gardner got paid.
Derek Stingley.
Yeah, Derek. Thank you. I was trying to think of his name. Several guys have been paid, and Surtain the second got paid as well. Or the Pat Surtain in Denver got paid as well. So you have all these different corner contracts. J.C. Horn got paid, that have kind of set the market at that position.
Mm-hmm.
Edges, you don't have that. You have edges that are resetting the market in T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. And now you have Aiden Hutchinson on deck, and you get this deal done before Aiden Hutchinson gets paid. And I do think that really plays into how this got done and why this got done when it did. I would bet money that they were working on this deal long before they even signed Trey Smith to his deal, because they had parameters and they had an idea, and it just came together because they finally had the Trey Smith deal done. They knew what they had left. They knew what they needed to work with, and this got the deal done with George Karlaftis. And the reason they're able to pay him what they're able to pay him is because they're able to give him a lot more money in year one in signing bonus cash that he wasn't going to be getting beforehand, and that gets them a discount on the back end. This is fantastic for them, and I will have more once we get more of the information as to what this cap numbers are going to be, how that's going to break out year to year once we have the full signing bonus information, and how that's going to work for the cap going forward. But at this point, I love this deal for the Chiefs. He's not a top 5 pass rusher, but I also don't want to be paying him like a top 5 pass rusher, and that's the problem. If you're going to go pay a pass rusher, you're going to have to pay top 7, top 5 money just to get somebody probably as good as George for probably, what would you think, a 30 to 50% markup? Because free agency is going to cost them more.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head. The thing that saved them the most money here is getting done before Hutchinson. Because even though statistically he's a higher player, it would still pull that value up. So by getting it signed and out of the way, you saved yourself that markup as well. And I think long-term, that helps this whole defense and this whole roster. They have to get better. They got better by signing George Karlaftis.
Summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting. You're already following the action. Why not make it a little more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Whether I'm placing a same game parlay or watching a bet right in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like I'm part of the action. And if new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Zach Tom just signed a historic extension with the Green Bay Packers.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast.
Zach Tom is going to be a Green Bay Packer maybe for life. He signs a 4-year deal worth $88 million, as much as $92 million. And what at least it is being reported as a historic amount of guaranteed money, signing bonus money for an offensive lineman. This is how the Packers navigate not going crazy with the AAV, the average annual value, is you give a $30 million signing bonus. You give more than they would get somewhere else or than anyone else has gotten in this case. This is, by the way, the second mega deal the Packers have done in the last year where they have set a new record for guaranteed money. No one had ever signed for a signing bonus the size of Jordan Love. Now no offensive lineman has ever signed for a signing bonus like Zach Tom. And while Jason inadvertently called me out yesterday, or maybe advertently, for saying, hey, look, I don't know that 2024 was as good as some Packer fans would lead you to believe for Zach Tom. That I believe that. And yet, this is a deal that I did not think would get done for less than $25 million a year. And over 4 years, I mean, that's $12 million difference. And I was saying, I thought Rasheed Walker was going to get between $20 and $22 million a year. I think Zach Tom is a materially better player. And so this is value. This is value. Look at the free agent deals signed this offseason. I understand the free agent tax. Aaron Banks got almost $20 million. Aaron Banks, I know he's a Packer now, not as good. Not as good as Zach Tom. Dan Moore, a guy that Pittsburgh, who needed offensive linemen, said, bye, got $20.5 million in free agency. The Kansas City Chiefs paid a backup player, at least from a preferred starter standpoint, $15 million in free agency to come be, I guess, maybe their swing tackle. That's how much the league is saying we need these guys. And yet the top end of the market has not quite caught up. And I'll be honest, I don't understand it. Trent Williams does not even make $30 million a year. He is the best left tackle in the league. Penei Sewell, Lane Johnson, they don't make what the best pass rushers make. Myles Garrett got $40 million a year this offseason. And then TJ Watt got $41 million. And yet the guys who have to block them for 40, 50, 60 plays a game are getting 25? Tell me how that makes sense. There are 7 pass rushers, 7 edge players who make more money than Trent Williams. Trent Williams, like if you ask 49ers fans, they will tell you he's the MVP of that team. One of the best football players in the NFL and has been for a decade. 5 pass rushers make over $30 million a year. Trent Williams makes 27.5. And I just mentioned there are 2 players who make $40 million. So we're talking about almost double what Zach Tom is going to make. Like the next Micah Parsons might get double Zach Tom AAV. And yet, if those 2 guys play, Micah might only beat him 1 or 2 times more. Well, in a game, all he needs to do is beat him 1 or 2 times. Zach Tom is going to win 98% of their matchups, 99% of their matchups, and Micah Parsons is going to get paid double. Explain to me how that makes sense. Explain to me how that makes sense. It doesn't. And so even if I don't think Zach Tom is quite, and by the way, not to, totally throw the appeal to authority fallacy at you, but Brandon Thorne, who does the trench warfare rankings, he's one of, I think he, for my money, is the best media member at evaluating and explaining offensive line play. He's been on the show a bunch over the years talking about draft picks and Packers offensive line. He didn't have Zach Tom as a top 5 right tackle last year. And I don't think it matters. That's the crazy thing about this contract. If he's the 6th or 7th best right tackle in the league, and I think he's a top 5 right tackle, but if he's the 6th or 7th best right tackle in the league, this is still good value because I don't think the league has caught up to the value of these players. Now, let me say, offensive line is, as I've said many times, a weak link system. So it is not how good your best players are. It is how bad your worst players are. That will define the ceiling of your football team and will certainly define the ceiling of your offensive line. If you have bad players on your offensive line, you are cooked. It doesn't matter. You could have Trent Williams in his prime and Lane Johnson in his prime and, Frank Winters from 1996. I don't know why he was the center I thought of. But if your left guard, or if your right guard is Byron Bell, you're going to struggle because what are the teams going to do? They're going to put their best guy on your worst guy, and it's going to be a problem. And then if you have to give help with your right tackle who's really good, well, now you've got to give help, or your center's got to give help every time. Well, then now there's easy ways to attack you. It isn't how good your best players are. It's how bad your worst players are. So I do think that the same way with a receiver, the guys covering the receivers for a long time were not making what the receivers were, and they still aren't. And that's because coverage is a weak link system. The NFL's marketplace is telling us what we already knew, that coverage is a weak link system. And that offensive line is a weak link system. But one pass rusher can change your whole pass rush. One receiver can change your whole passing offense. And so that's why that money is different. I think all of that is true. And yet, I think the corner market has been artificially suppressed because I do think if you have one good corner, it's really valuable. But I think one really good offensive lineman is in some ways even more valuable because I think it's easier to attack other parts of the field from a passing game standpoint than it is to attack other parts of your offensive line. Just by the very definition of the way the offensive line numbers work, you have 5 offensive linemen. You should have an advantage more often than not with the number of blockers that you have. So I look at this and I go, okay, what does this tell me about the Packers? They paid Aaron Banks. They've now paid Zach Tom. They drafted Jordan Morgan. They drafted Anthony Belton. What does the future of this offensive line look like? And there's still a lot to be determined on that front. Where does Elton Jenkins fit in all of this? He's under contract. Is there a way to make this work? Now, I think the numbers, when we see the specifics on this deal, are going to show pretty low base salaries in year 1 and 2. That's almost always how this works, that Zach Tom will continue to be inexpensive year 1, year 2, which is why if you wanted to give some more guaranteed money to Elton Jenkins into year 2, you're probably not bumping up against what you're giving Zach Tom here. But you may have determined this is all you want to do. The Packers have the leverage with Elton Jenkins. He is under contract. And he's under contract for a lot of money. He is not underpaid for a center. But I'm telling you, what Elton Jenkins wants is assurances that he is not going to be on the chopping block in the spring. Because if he gets hurt, he's probably going to be gone. And he just changed positions. And it is a big risk for him. I don't know that this changes that because the Packers have said, we think he's an all-pro. But they don't have to do anything with the contract. And really, they're not being unfair to him because he's getting a lot of money. If he were just a center, he would not be on this current contract and he would be the top of market center. So if you're the Packers, you're going, what are you talking about? Fix the contract. The contract's fixed. You're in great shape. Go earn the money. And he's going to say, well, yeah, but even if I play well in a year, you're not going to want to pay me this money to be a center because I'm be way too expensive in the last year of my contract. And that will be true, which is why they're in the current situation that they are now.
Ever wish managing your money felt easier? Maybe the Cincinnati Bengals do. With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers.
Jaquez Wilkes. I mean, Auburn obviously landing his commitment yesterday. This commitment, I think it restored hope in a lot of the Auburn fan base as far as, okay, if you can get a guy like this, one of the top players in the state, On3 has him as a top player in your class currently. I just think it gives you another guy to point to. Sure, you had Hezekiah. No question about it. Hezekiah Harris was a key guy in this class, but now you've got multiple guys where you can say, you are the core of this class.
We talked about this the other night. I feel like, yes, Auburn's added 7 or 8 commitments over the last 2 months, but you really haven't had that blockbuster yet. You know, you've had a lot of guys that I think are going to be solid, like they could project to be really good 2 or 3 years down the road, but you've yet to really add that showstopper guy that like makes everybody kind of turn their heads. And I was like, you got to get Wilkes committed. That could save everything. That could get everybody, back moving in the right direction. And they finally pulled it off. And I think it has. I think it's like, hey, regardless of what has been said about Auburn and NIL and rev share and this, that, and the other, they sacked up and went and got a top 100 player. And I don't care where he's from. I don't care what classification he is. The kid's a player, and I'll take every 6'4", 220-plus pound dude that can run side to side, forward and backward. I'll take as many of them as I can get.
Yeah, I was asked a question on another show last week. What position group do you think is most important for Auburn in this specific class? And I added the caveat that I'll probably say this almost every year, but I said defensive line. And there's some discussion exactly like how Wilkes is going to be used, especially early on in his career at the college level. But most places list him as either defensive end or edge. There's some folks that view him as a linebacker just because of what he does at Wadley, but he literally does everything at Wadley. The stat of the day this morning that I posted, he rushed for like over 300 yards in the state championship game. Like, it's insane, everything that this guy is capable and able to do. But defensive line, you can't win games unless you can rush the passer and win in the trenches. Wilkes helps you do that. End of discussion.
Yeah, if that's where he ends up, I think he's good enough to play anywhere. But I mean, Auburn's recruiting him as a linebacker, so I think that's probably where he's going to start. I thought the same thing.
Linebacker and edge, though, is so like some of it's semantics, right?
But I thought the same thing about JJ Falk that we're talking about right now. I thought JJ Falk
bring him up
from the get go, edge. He's playing stand up linebacker, like that's where he's working out at. Like maybe DJ Durkin has an eye for these guys that are likes these guys that are 6'4", 220, 230 pounds that can run side to side. Who was the big Mississippi State had a big middle linebacker? What was it? Watson was his last name. He was 6'4" plus.
Deshaun Watson.
Not Deshaun Watson.
That's not it.
They called him Bookie. That was his nickname. Bookie Watson. Nathaniel Watson. They've had other big time middle linebackers. I guess. I mean, maybe DJ Durkin likes.
Hey, look at you knowing your Mississippi State linebackers, my guy.
I know, it's kind of crazy. I just pulled that out of nowhere.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm a comp guy. I like comps.
You are a comp guy. The linebacker room is interesting. I mean, you mentioned JJ Falk. And then then on the other side of it, like you got Bryce Diaz, where it's like, is he a nickel? No, they walked him up. I mean, just a versatile guy. It's all over the place, which is what you've seen Georgia do. I mean, ever since Kirby got there, it's like, don't know exactly what you are, but you're a really good football player, and we'll just deal with it later. And I am 100% okay with that.
1,000%. You're talking about Bryce Diaz. I've been told that guy is kind of like Riddick from last year.
Yeah.
He may not have a every down role, but there's got to be a role that you come up with to get him on the field because he's freakishly athletic. So again, get as many of those guys as you possibly can and figure it out. Just get them in the room and figure out. If you got to put him on the edge, so be it. If you got to bulk him up and slide him inside, so be it. The kid's a freak. Like, get as many of those as you can.
Yeah, and the timing makes sense for him to be at edge early in his career. It does kind of seem like Auburn's going to go in the portal at edge like most years. I think they're going to have to in December. I mean, assuming everybody goes pro that can. But you're going to need somebody on the other side of with Amaris, and I know you've got some young guys that will step up at that point. But so I mean, I think he's got 2 years to develop really into what he needs to be. I think as a freshman, he'll have some sort of role just because I think he's too good not to, assuming his frame can get to where he needs to be. Something that Brian Smith has talked about, host of the Portal on this show a lot, is kids like Wilkes who play basketball as well. Sometimes in the offseason, they're lighter year round than they typically are because they're running all the time. It's just a different sport. And this is the kind of guy that he said he sees all the time where like they quit playing basketball and they don't lose all that weight.
Shoot up. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're, 250, 260 and they're ready to go.
Yeah. And I assume he's going to be an early enrollee. So probably no basketball season to worry about this upcoming year. Yeah. So yeah, he could be a guy that from December to August of 2026 could easily be, 200, like you said, 240, 250 pounds, if that's what they want him to be. Like if he gets here at spring and maybe he's not quite as agile enough to play middle linebacker as they thought, he could easily bulk up and they can slide him down.
So, I mean, just to put a bow on this conversation, I don't think Wilkes is the most important player in this class, but I think he could be the most impactful.
I would say at this point in time, he may be the most important. Just based off of the way recruiting was going and needing that blockbuster guy to kind of build back the confidence in a lot of things, not just the fans, but I think the whole Auburn recruiting process. I think it's very important at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, you're talking about you could possibly land guys like Braylon Womack at the end of August, like a 5-star safety. So there's still some big dogs out there left for Auburn to get after.